What is your name, your title, and what inspired you to run for office?
My name is Dan Purdy. I'm a candidate for Whatcom County Executive. And what made me run for office was, this is my civic duty. This is my opportunity to give back to the community. I never had the chance or the opportunity to serve in the military like my father and my grandfathers before him. And so this is my opportunity to really come and to do what I want to do with the citizens of Whatcom County, also for my children, and to preserve their future as well.
What are you most proud of in your career?
My career spans a couple of decades. I don't want to give away my age quite this early, but I'll tell you that I've been really blessed with a wife of 19 years and with 3 children. And we've moved around a bit throughout the United States. And I've had a real varied career in international business management, procurement, supply chain management. I've earned my Lean Six Sigma Black Belt after a lot of work, and I'm just really proud of those things.
The County Council has decided that the jail should be located in Ferndale. Do you agree? If yes, how will you get this project passed?
Yeah, so the jail is a really complicated issue. On June 30th, in fact, I walked through it, and I believe that Ferndale represents the best option for us right now because of the 3 options that we had previously. I feel that this levy has to pass. I'm in favor of it. I'm pro-jail. And that's because when I walked through it, there are inhumane conditions that nobody, whether you're an incarcerated individual or you're on staff, should have to deal with on a daily basis. For those individuals who were working there, they don't have access to natural sunlight, for example, fresh air. They're in close and tight quarters with the inmates, and it's a very dangerous place to be. When I was there was a particular individual who was extremely dangerous, I was told, and we did have a protective detail. But these individuals are, just a few steps away from the general public, the visitors, and then of course the staff. If the jail does not pass, we are in dire straits here in Whatcom County. We don't have adequate mental health services, which the new jail would obviously promote inside of the new facility. We don't have the option to let this go another 2 to 5 years, and so I just feel that everybody who's going to be voting really does need to consider what this is going to do. It's 0.2%, and it's really important that we really consider any alternative if you're not going to vote for the jail. I don't see any that are reasonable.
Our community is one of the fastest growing in the Pacific Northwest, and affordable housing is one of the top concerns in our area. What kind of things can the county executive do to affect this? And how will you ensure our community is welcoming to all?
The housing issue is a supply and demand problem, and that's where I resonate as a business leader and as an executive. The most important thing that we have to do is increase the supply of housing. Oftentimes we look at this as part of the growth management plan. We've already designated certain areas throughout the county that can have growth zones. I know that there are certain cities that would like other cities to pick up additional increase and slack, and that really just needs to be resolved through some trust and some more conversation, and I plan to lead those conversations and gain consensus and compromise on what can be done. Another part of the affordable housing issue is our permitting. We're taking way too long to be able to do our 1,700 permits, is I think what the number was back in 2022. And so if we can just go in there and maybe do a Kaizen event or take a closer look at our workflows and just map out that entire process and do a better job of helping more construction get to the point in the already designated zones, that will help us to cut through some of the bureaucracy, the red tape, and help us to move forward by supplying additional housing units.
In the last 3 years, the health department has nearly doubled in size and dramatically expanded its scope. This has led to some complex administrative challenges. For instance, the department has had a turnover rate of over 50%. Have we expanded the health department due to the pandemic, or is this the new normal? How will you set that department up for success?
I believe the health department is running roughly 139 employees right now. Obviously, we can all fact check that ourselves. I haven't spent too much time going through the actual department itself or meeting with the individuals who are working there or are leading that. I would like to get more information before I make any final decisions. That's what a CEO does, is that individual comes in, they take a view of the landscape, we talk to people, get through the perspectives, and then we make decisions. I think it's really important to understand that the pandemic was a one-off for us, and it was of historic proportions. So whether or not we were staffed up just for that 3-year period or not, I think that remains to be seen. If we're creating kingdoms and fiefdoms, that's something that we need to really take a closer look at, because we don't want to be taking taxpayer dollars and putting them towards programs or additional unnecessary expenses. But I don't have all the answers quite yet on that.
Right now, the county and the small cities are having a vigorous debate around their urban growth areas as they attempt to accommodate the growing population squeezed out of Bellingham. What will you do to navigate this dispute?
Well, the first thing we have to do is bring all of the parties together and just really talk about what's possible. You know, one of the things that's really concerning to me about the urban growth is that we don't have a plan for emergency preparedness. What happens when we have our next historic floods, when the earthquake fault around Boulder Creek goes, if we were to have some type of landslide, or, I mean, for heaven forbid, we have Mount Baker eruption. Because of our geographic location, our back is up against the wall with British Columbia, our right arm is against the Straits of Juan de Fuca, we've got the mountain range to the left, and it's just a really tenuous position to be in. So with all of these urban growth problems that we do have, we've got to walk through every individual need that we have, which includes things like sewer, housing, additional ADUs, things like emergency preparedness, making sure that we've got the proper equipment in place for our first responders, law enforcement. We need to have additional deputies. Right now we're below the national average at roughly 0.8 versus the 1.2 national deputies per 1,000 people. I mean, it's really challenging with where we're at right now, but it's also exciting because lots of people want to come and live in Whatcom County. And of course, we've all chosen to be here.
There are a lot of different tools to tackle homelessness, but we don't have endless funding. What do you think is the most effective tool deserving county support? What is your top priority for tackling homelessness?
One of the things I don't believe that we're doing very well right now is coordinating with faith-based organizations like the Lighthouse Mission. They have, I believe, real positive solutions to these challenges and these problems. When I met with the executive director and his staff recently, I learned that there were somewhere between 800 and 1,000 individuals consuming their services, and they have a really unique program that government just cannot deliver. They focus on outreach for hurting people, and that includes children and families and adults. And then from outreach, they move on to recovery. In the recovery phase of someone who's going through substance abuse, addiction issues, all kinds of mental challenges, they need certain skills that government just won't deliver. And once they get through that, then they can move into what's called the restoration phase. And I think that's pretty special because it's only in the restoration phase that individuals can start holding a job and collecting their life again. Even though they might physically not be dependent any longer, or they're moving forward and they're doing all kinds of activities with the organization, it's really important that they move through that restoration phase to ensure that they either don't relapse or they can get through that with a support network, which includes all of the services that we talked about earlier: mental health, trauma. There's a special area of trauma that needs to be addressed with homelessness. And then helping those people get back on their feet through other programs that the community and government can then offer. But I don't think government has a solution. I do believe it's within the faith-based organizations.
With the continuing struggles facing local media and the impact that COVID has had on community events and public spaces, how do we come together as a community and combat the division we see online?
The purpose of government is to act on behalf of the people. I'll be responsible for the executive branch of government, while others are responsible for the legislative and judicial branches. The executive has a really unique opportunity to answer the complaints and the concerns and the issues, which is built into the job description, by the way, for the citizens, of which we have roughly 230,000 people in Whatcom County, both on a full-time and part-time basis. I intend to do things that others haven't done recently, which is to include town halls and to really hear from the people. It's a demand-supply issue once again. What are the folks demanding? What do they want to hear about? I'll be overseeing certain departments. One of those departments includes the Sheriff's Office, who is responsible, like me, to uphold the U.S. Constitution, the Washington State Constitution, and then, of course, all of the policies, laws, and ordinances in place. There are things at a national level that I just can't impact. And frankly, a lot of it's white noise, but we do have to be less of a divisive people, and we have to come together and solve issues for Whatcom County. We're not so large that we can't get our arms around some of the challenges that we have right now. And so it's really important for us to remember that we've all chosen to live here. We have more in common with one another than we have that would divide us. And it's just incredibly important that we just have good conversations and allow cooler heads to prevail.
Would you like to share a closing statement?
The executive branch of government is a huge responsibility. It covers a dozen or more departments. It has all kinds of influence, and it requires someone who has that type of experience. I've been a CEO for several different companies. I've owned 4 businesses. I've had 2 exits. I've worked for some of the largest companies on earth, including Hewlett-Packard, Agilent Technologies, British Petroleum. I've worked with Freeport-McMoRan Copper and Gold and the infrastructure company AECOM. I've also worked in mid-sized and smaller companies, and I've seen a lot during my 25-plus year career. I know how to bring people together. I know how to move us off-center and to get things done. More important, my present role today is with an amazing business advisory company in which I'm a director of partnerships for the Pacific Northwest and Western Canada. And we have over $1 billion in client revenues under management. My job is to simply bring people together, to give them and to gift them several services that they need to grow and scale their businesses. There is nothing more noteworthy than bringing the engine of the American economy in small and medium-sized businesses to a much higher level. And that's exactly what I plan to do with government. We're all people. We all have wants and desires. We have families. We just have to come to the point where we're all moving in the same direction. And that's what a CEO does.